If I picked you up and dropped you anywhere in the country, do you have the confidence that you could find an off-market self-storage deal? Today, I am going to reveal and share 16 ways that you can find mom and pop off-market storage deals. But in particular, we're gonna focus on 3 powerful strategies that I have used to buy storage facilities that StorageWinds community members and coaching clients are currently using today to find off-market mom and pop storage deals. So with that being said, I've prepared a presentation for you that I'm gonna walk you through specifically how you're able to leverage these strategies. Now, before I dive right into it, keep in mind that this is going to be a series of talks and podcast episodes that get hosted on Apple, Spotify, and in my YouTube channel, where every single week I'm gonna break down new strategies on how you can find mom and pop off-market self-storage facilities. And oftentimes I find that self-storage owners and operators are chasing overpriced on-market listed facilities on Crexi and LoopNet. And these are going to be specifically focused and targeted on how you can do this regardless of your experience, regardless of your financial situation. So let's dive right in. Now, the first thing that I think is really, really important to share and highlight is that the more clarity you have around what a deal is to you, in other words, if you can define your buy box, what I call your storage avatar, you are much more likely to find what you are looking for. Now, I've created a video that outlines specifically how you can create your self-storage buy box and define your storage avatar. So there'll be a link below where you can watch that video and watch that training. But just know that before you go target and find off-market, you are much more likely to find what you are looking for if you can clearly define it. Clarity is so important. So when you have focus, then you can move quicker and you know exactly what you're looking for. We do have a free resource. The link will be below in the show notes, storagewinds.com/storageavatar. That's my free gift for you, to you for being a subscriber of the podcast and of the channel. So really, really appreciate you tuning in. So here are 16 ways you can find mom and pop storage facilities off market. So you have driving for dollars, virtual driving for dollars, flying for dollars, which is one of my favorite ways. You have bird dogs, essentially people that bring you opportunities. On a monthly basis, I have people texting me pictures of storage facilities that they see when they're driving around. Hidden gems map. Wholesalers, cold calling, email, text marketing, referrals, direct mail, the rent gap sniper method. This is ninja stuff. Google hunting, Facebook Marketplace, storage Facebook groups like the StorageWinds Facebook group. Shameless plug, if you are not part of the StorageWinds Facebook group, you're missing out on literally the best storage Facebook group out there. There's a lot of content being shared, connections. So there'll be a link below where you can join 100% free. And then networking and just building relationships. Now that we have a big 30,000 foot view of just 16 ways that you can find off market storage deals, and again, in the future, we will dive deeper into a lot of these. I want to focus on 3 in particular. I want to focus on the rent gap sniper method. We're going to talk about the hidden gems maps, and then we're going to also talk about cold calling. These are going to be specific paths to your first deal or to your next deal. And we may even touch on a few bonus ones. So with that being said, the rent gap sniper method is a strategy that I discovered while looking at on-market listed facilities in Crexi and LoopNet. And these were hidden gems, potentially hidden profits hiding in plain sight, literally right under my nose. Now, here's the cool thing about this method, and I'm going to show you specifically what you need to do. Brokers are literally doing all the hard work for you. So whenever you come across OMs, offering memorandums, which is essentially a nice, pretty package, a PDF that a broker who is selling a storage facility will put together that has all the details on the facility, the financials, specifics about the market, etc. Oftentimes in the offering memorandum, they will include something that most people are not even looking at or considering. And that is the rent comparison, right? In other words, what are the rental rates of the competing facilities within that 1, 3, or 5 mile radius? Now, let me show you specifically the opportunities that have been hiding right under you that you probably haven't even noticed, because every time I share this with somebody, they're like, I can't even believe this has been right there. So here is a screenshot of a rate comparison sheet that a friend of mine who is selling a storage facility always puts in his OMs, in his offering memorandum. So you can see the facility that's highlighted at the top of the rate comparison sheet is Safe Storage, 170 Gilmore Road. And again, I want to give my friend John Lindsay some love and a shout out. Go check out that listing he's got on Crexy and LoopNet. Great broker, really understands the business. But take a look at what I like to do when I look at these OMs. So not only am I looking at the subject facility that's being offered for sale, which in this case is Safe Storage on 170 Gilmore Road, but take a look at the rates of that facility. So the 5x10 is $60, the 10x10 is $100, the 10x15 is $130, and the 10x20 is $155. Now, I recently did a pop-up storage coaching call to those on my email list and in the Storage Wins Facebook community. So if you're not part of it, you're missing out on opportunities like that where we'll do pop-up storage group coaching calls. Now, when I showed this particular example, I kind of paused and I asked everybody, I said, hey, listen, take a look at the competing facilities. Where do you guys see the opportunity here? Where do you see the hidden gem, so to speak? And then I had several people chime in. One person said, oh, well, take a look at Moss Bluff Self-Storage. You know, they have the highest rates, 87, 105, 125, and 169. And then I kind of paused and I said, okay, well, why Moss Bluff? And they said, oh, because they have the highest rates. I said, okay, interesting. I said, anyone else see where the opportunities are? And then somebody jumped out and said, Southwest Mini Storage, 477 Parish Road, which I've just highlighted for you. And I said, okay, well, why is this the opportunity? And the guy said, well, they have the lowest rates of all the facilities in the market. So the subject facility, their 5x10 is at $60, but Southwest Mini Storage on Parish Road is at $40. And then if you keep going down the line, the subject facility is at $100, but Southwest Mini Storage is at $65. And then the 10x15 is at $130 and Southwest Mini Storage is at $80. And the 10x20 is at $155, Southwest Mini is at $90. So when we look at value add opportunities, one of the things that I like to look for are mom and pop run facilities that have not caught up to the average of the market street rates. In other words, it is the equivalent of, like, imagine if you bought a single family property like 15 years ago, and let's say you rented it out for $1,000 a month, just for simple math. And let's say that all these years later, you've never raised the rates, or maybe you've raised the rates once or twice. But let's say that today in this market, the average rental rates for a house in that area are $2,200 a month. Well, that's $1,200 a month of value that you are not capturing and receiving. That is the same thing that's happening here with Southwest Mini Storage, right? The broker has already done the work of going out to the market and doing the research on the current rental rates. So whenever you look at OMs, offering memorandums, scroll down, usually it's in the middle towards the back side of it, and check to see rate comparison sheets, market rent analysis. Take a look and look for the facility, the competing facility that has the lowest rates. That represents an opportunity. There is baked in value there if you can buy that facility at the right price or terms. Now let's move on. Let me give you a second example. So here's another one right here, a screenshot from an OM that I took where you can see A1 Mini Storage is the subject facility that's being offered for sale. And then you can see that the rates are $54, $99, $124, and $129, ranging for a 5x10 all the way up to a 10x20. Well, where do you guys see, if you're watching the video, see if you can spot the opportunity. Where is the hidden value? And if you're listening on the podcast, then it's Weaver Mini Storage. Why? Because their 5x10 is $50, while the competing facility, A1 Mini Storage, the facility that's being offered for sale in this OM, is $54. Then if you keep going down the line, Weaver Mini is at $60 for the 10x10, but the subject facility is at $99. And then the 10x15, Weaver's at $70, subject facility is $124. You see, we're looking for the gap between the current rates of the facility and the average of the market. In fact, if you look down at the bottom, the broker did us the favor of showing the medium street rates. So the medium street rates, as an example, for a 10x10 is $120. Weaver mini storage, which is the what the rent gap sniper method has uncovered, is $60. That means you can literally double the rates based on the average of the market. And if you look at the medium street rates, or the medium street rates, I should say, if you look at the medium for the 10 by 15, it's 130. Weaver mini is 70. So you could almost double. So that is potential hidden value hiding in plain sight, right? That is the power of the rent gap sniper method. Here's one last third example. Subject facility here. The rates are 65, 95, 105, and 150, and then 225 for the 10 by 30. Well, take a look at Advantage Self-Storage right there in the middle. Look at their 5 by 10. They're at 49, while the subject facility being offered for sale is at 65. So these are the opportunities if you are looking at on-market deals on Crexi and LoopNet, and you're looking at these OMs, these offering memorandums. Don't just look at the subject facility. Take a look at the rent market analysis sheet. In fact, I created a video that dives even deeper on this hidden gems approach. Again, what I call the rent gap sniper method. We'll include a link in the show notes below. So now that we've covered the first one, just big picture, all you're doing is looking for the gap, the delta between the current rent and the market rent, and see what kind of an increase. The bigger the gap, the more potential value and opportunity there is, because once you raise rents, it is going to increase your revenue, which it's going to trickle down and you're going to generate more net operating income, NOI. And in storage, the value of this business, the value of the asset is determined by the net operating income. And the more NOI that you achieve, the higher the NOI, the higher the property value by a multiple when you factor in a cap rate. Let's go ahead and transition on to the second way. And that's just jumping into Google Maps, right? And here are some of the things that I look for. At pretty much everything we do in storage, at some point, I'm going to go to Google Maps. I'm going to go to Google Maps because I want to see how the facility looks on the street view. I want to get the satellite view of the market. I want to see how many competitors are in the market. I want to evaluate the level of sophisticated operators in that market. And so just some of the things that we look for, here are some of the signals that indicate to you that it is a mom and pop run operated facility, are whenever you don't see a website, or if you see an outdated website, right? Maybe it looks like it was built with Netscape way back in the day in the late 90s, or it's just, you can just tell it's an old school looking website. In fact, not that long ago, I looked at a storage facility that when I went to their website, it literally had like the revolving, rotating Internet Explorer E in the top left. I mean, it was clearly the website hadn't been looked at or touched in decades. Whenever they do have a website, I always go to the contact us section. And if I ever see a personalized email, like at Gmail, at Yahoo, at AOL, or at Hotmail, instead of a business domain, it's another indicator to me that it's a mom and pop run operator. Of course, I look at, do they have a Google My Business listing? Do they have pictures? And if they do, are they like really crappy looking pictures, or are they professional taking pictures? I also take a look at the reviews, right? How many reviews do they have? In my opinion, anything under 20, probably not a lot of reviews. Under 10, definitely not a lot of reviews, and that's not a good thing. Anything under 4.0 stars, not good, right? That means that they might have some customer service issues. I'll read some of the reviews. So I'll just get a general sense for like, what's the level of sophistication when it comes to the operators in that market? So here's a perfect example. We'll go back to that example, 477 Parish Road. So if you go to maps.google.com, maps, just regular old Google Maps, type in any city and state that you might want to buy storage in, or type in a specific address if you know of a storage facility. And then that button in the middle, right below the address, it says nearby. You're going to click on that button, and then you're going to you can type in storage near me and then hit enter, or you can type in self-storage and then hit enter. And what that's going to do is that is going to bring up the Google Map Pack. Okay, so these are all the storage facilities that Google recognizes and is picking up. Now, as an aside, one of the ways that I like to find these off-market mom and pop storage owners in these facilities is something I call Google Flying for Dollars, which we have a virtual assistant that will take the satellite view, will go into a market and will literally scan from left to right, top to bottom, and look for the concrete looking caterpillars, right? Like these are the storage facilities that might not have a Google My Business listing that Google isn't picking up. So that's just a quick nugget, quick aside that we're going to be covering that on a future episode here. So make sure that you're subscribed on the channel and the Storage Wins podcast so that you can get notified with that video and the following videos where we're going to dive deeper into the 16 ways that you can find these mom and pop off-market storage facilities. But take a look at the left-hand side if you're watching the video here. You'll know if they have a website because there's a little icon that's a circle and it says website right below. Well, if it's blank and you just see white space, like in this example right here with safe and secure storage, they don't have a website. Now, let me zoom out and put things in its proper perspective. To me, not having a website at a storage facility is like living in a home that doesn't have a front door, right? More than 70% of our customers come from online, whether that's our pay-per-click marketing campaigns, search engine optimization, Google My Business listing. We have very little drive-up foot traffic to our storage facilities. So, in this day and age we live in, so many people are looking for speed and convenience. They're jumping on when they need storage. And by the way, I've seen different statistics that say 1 out of every 3 people rent storage, all the way up to 1 out of every 8 people. Even if it's 1 out of 8, that's a lot of people that rent storage. And these people are jumping on their mobile phone and they're looking where they live and they say storage near me. And if your website doesn't pop up and your facility doesn't come up for them, that is a missed opportunity. That's huge. So anytime I see on Google Maps a facility that doesn't have a website, they are missing the mark. It's a clear indicator that it's a mom and pop run operated facility that they're either too lazy to get a website and or they're ignorant and don't see the value in having a website, or they don't understand marketing. The other thing I look for is reviews. So in this particular case, I think only 6 reviews. That's not a lot of reviews. Here's another example: 3.3 stars. If you were to read and review only the 7 reviews they have, it's probably not very good, right? Obviously, it's not good. They have 3.3 stars, but why? Is it customer service? Like, what is it? That is an indicator that operator isn't running the business the way it should be. And that represents an opportunity for you and I, right? This is one of the things that we drill deep down inside of our Storage Wins coaching community. When we do our weekly calls, is we uncover this value. We look at the hidden opportunities and figure out how could we make this work? How could we improve the operation to the business and force the appreciation to increase the overall value, generate more cash flow, and ultimately build wealth with storage, right? That's what it's all about. This is what leads to financial freedom and time freedom. So when you get really, really good at finding off-market storage deals, you literally have the keys to the castle, okay? And then, like I said, whenever I go to the websites, always go to the contact us section. Now, what do you do when you uncover these facilities with the rent gap sniper method or jumping into Google Maps? Well, you pick up the phone and you smile and dial. Why? One of the things I always share with our community, Storage Wins community members and coaching clients, is that conversations lead to conversions and conversions lead to contracts. Guess what contracts leads to? Cash, right? C leads to C, leads to C, leads to C. Conversions lead to conversations lead to conversions, conversions lead to contracts, and contracts lead to cash, okay? To me, picking up the phone and calling, and I recognize that some of you, your skin is crawling at the thought of picking up the phone and calling a complete stranger. And I get it. It might not be for everybody. Maybe you're watching me or you're listening to me saying, hey, Alex, easy for you. You've done this before. Alex, easy for you because you have a Cuban accent, or you smile when you speak to people, or you're an extrovert, or any reason or excuse you're coming up with. Trust me when I tell you, you can do this. Take the pressure off. You're just talking to another human being. You're not trying to date or marry that person. You're just asking some questions and seeking to connect with them, right? And one of the ways I call is I quickly identify who I am and why I'm calling. I don't say, oh, hi. I don't stumble on my words and say, is this the owner of ABC Self-Storage? Well, they already know that this is a cold call and they are trained, they're wired to probably want to get off that call as quickly as possible. Now, as an aside, I will tell you that generally speaking, a lot of these mom and pop storage owners are pretty friendly people, right? Every now and then you're going to come across somebody that's rude, but who cares? So what next? All right. But when I call, I identify who I am, why I'm calling, and I say, hey, and I acknowledge what's already going on in their brain. Like, who is this? So, hey, listen, I realize this call is random and out of the blue. My name is Alex Pardo. My wife and I, right? I like to say my wife and I because number one, I'm married. Number two, we are looking for storage, right? So I'll never lie, right? That's a terrible way to start a relationship or any interaction or communication. Just do not lie. Generally speaking, whether you're starting, finishing, ending, doesn't matter. Don't lie. Be yourself, right? And I just say, hey, listen, I came across your facility on Google. I'll compliment them. Looks like you've done a great job. I see that you're right next to the Dollar General, the Arby's, whatever. By any chance, would you consider an offer for your storage facility? Have you even considered or thought about selling? I like to use the word considered because I have found that it tends to open up, it widens the opportunity for a conversation and for them to respond positively. Now, sometimes they just flat out say, no, I haven't. And I'll make sure that I ask if I can follow up with them. And one of the things I always do if they're not interested in selling is not only will I ask them if I can touch base with them in the future, 6, 12 months down the road, but I'll ask them, I'll say, hey, listen, clearly you're an experienced operator. You've been in this business for a long time. Do you mind if I ask you a question or two? Could you just give me some guidance and direction? Right? Especially if you don't own a storage facility, this is a great way because generally speaking, a lot of people want to help others. And if you just humble yourself, and you just say, hey, listen, do you mind if I ask you a question or two? I have worked with coaching clients that have taken this approach, and all of a sudden, at the beginning of the call, it's no, I'm not interested in selling. No, I wouldn't consider an offer. To all of a sudden, they're giving them advice and sharing their experience, and they're just, my student is biting their tongue quiet, listening, because you want to do significantly less speaking than you are listening. God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth. I forgot where I heard that, but it always stuck with me. So when you're on these calls, control the conversation by asking questions and then just shut up and listen. Let them speak. Get them talking about the facility. And so they'll say, hey, listen, before I let you go, obviously you're an experienced operator. Do you mind if I just ask you a question or two? Like I'm looking to get into the storage business and I'd really value any guidance or advice that you could give me. Again, just humble yourself and then just ask, hey, what do you wish you knew when you first got into the business that now you know from experience? Or what's it been like for you? What do you think I should know? Ask open-ended questions like that. And then sometimes all of a sudden that person has done so much talking that they feel like they know you, even though they've been the one doing the talking. And then they'll circle back and say, oh, and here's the one thing I do. I also say, well, I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. I value your time. I want to be respectful of it. Obviously, you're well connected and you know pretty much everything there is to know about storage. Do you have any friends or do you know any storage owners who might consider selling their facility? Here's what happens. There's one of 3 things that are going to happen. And I find that more times than not, it's favorable. One, they're either going to say, well, actually, and then they'll say, I might consider selling. Well, if you offered this and boom, now you've entered into a different part of the conversation. B, they'll actually give you a referral and they'll say, well, why don't you check with XYZ storage that's a couple miles away? I think I heard at one point they were thinking of selling. Boom, you just got a free lead. Or C, they'll just say no, but you've probably built rapport with them. They feel like they know, like, and trust you a little bit more than they did when you first called them. And oftentimes they are very open to you following up. All right. Now, here's a quick aside. I follow up anyways, unless they tell me, lose my number, never call me again. Then I respect their wishes, but they're not going to remember me, 3-6 months down the road. So unless they tell me to go pound sand or kick rocks, I usually follow up anyway. And that's a conversation for a different episode in terms of the follow-up system and the process and the nurture sequence and all that. But all you need to do is start the conversation. In fact, that S is what I call the 4S cash flow framework. And if you want to access that PDF for free, just head over to storagewins.com/4S cash flow, 4S cash flow. And we'll have a link in the show notes. 4S has a double meaning, right? It's a super simple self-storage script, right? Those are the S's. And then also it's what to say on the call. Think of this 4S framework: start, situation, struggles, and solutions. Start, situation, struggles, and solutions. So start. Just open up, have a friendly dialogue, friendly conversation. Just introduce yourself. Why are you calling? We just touched on that. Once you get into the flow of the conversation, what's their situation? Try to understand them and their business. Like, if they would consider selling, why would they? Right? I always talk about, I had a coaching call with one of our Storage Wins members about a week or so ago, and I could tell, listening to one of his calls, that he was chasing the seller instead of having the seller chase him. So you want to attract, you don't want to chase. I was talking to my daughter. This was probably about a week or so ago. And I'm not going to mention the particulars of the situation, but I gave her an analogy because she was also chasing in her world with a particular situation she was dealing with. And I said, baby, let me ask you a question. What happens if, by the way, Sadie is our golden doodle. So I said, if we open the sliding glass door and we let Sadie run in the backyard, what happens if you run after Sadie? And she kind of like paused for a second and she goes, oh, well, she'll run away from me. I said, exactly. And I said, what will then happen if you're chasing her and you clearly can't catch her because this golden doodle is lightning fast? I mean, she would give Usain Bolt a race. Like, she is super quick. You'll never catch her. I won't catch her. Nobody will catch her. I said, baby, what happens if all of a sudden after chasing her, you stop and pause and then you start running the other way? And she goes, oh, well, Papi, well, Sadie will start chasing me. I said, bingo, you got it. So don't ever chase. So why do I say all that? When I'm on these conversations, I like to stay a step behind. 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I'm never chasing them. I'm not the thirsty dog like nipping at their heels to try to like give me some water, right? I got a lot of stuff going on. I'm looking at a lot of deals. Like, in my brain, it's an opportunity for them if I want to pursue that story. Now, I do it in a way that's very genuine and authentic. Obviously, I'm not coming across cocky or brash or like my stuff don't stink. You know what I mean, right? Like, it's not that kind of approach. I'm just looking to find out more about their situation, understand what motivation, if any, do they have. Now, what's interesting is that in the single family space, oftentimes sellers were selling because of 3 reasons: either financial distress, physical distress, meaning the property was dilapidated or it needed a lot of work, or circumstantial, death in the family, the D's, divorce, job transfer, stuff like that. Well, in storage, I find that most of the time, motivation falls in the circumstantial bucket. And oftentimes, more times than not, they're getting ready to retire. They are done. They're cooked. They don't have the time, energy, or mental bandwidth to keep wanting to grow the business. In fact, they don't even want to grow the business. That's why they're selling. And that presents an awesome opportunity for you and I, right? So the S then becomes the struggles. Uncover their pain points. What is it that is going on in their life and or business? I remember talking to one seller who had a facility in Louisiana, and it was south of the main, I think it's I-70 or I-75, south of that main road, which is like not that far from the water. And every time it rains, it would get flooded in that area. And that was a big pain point for him. And the guy owned the facility free and clear, so he didn't have insurance. And when he revealed his asking price and I ran the numbers, I looked at his expenses and he didn't have insurance. But I had to explain to him, listen, I'm likely to go get bank financing. And by getting bank financing, not only am I paying, not only do I have debt service and I'm paying interest on that loan, but they're going to require insurance. And by the way, because your facility is located so close to the water, my insurance policy and the premiums are coming out 35 to 45 grand, right? That has a significant impact on the numbers. And I had to educate him on that process, that unless you find a buyer that's going to buy cash and self-insure, the asking price just didn't make any sense. And he significantly came down at his number. Now, we weren't able to make the deal work anyways for a variety of reasons, but I uncovered the pain that it floods a lot in that area, and that he had a lot of issues with customers, and there's the water going in under because it wasn't properly sealed, and all these things. So you now start to know where to dig a little bit when you figure out their struggles and their pain points. And then the final S is solutions. This is where you get to craft your offer and give them multiple offers. I like a combination of just a straight outright purchase, and that could be bank financing, that could be cash, that could be private money. I like a seller financed offer. I'm huge on terms deals. And then it could be a hybrid, it could be your third. So think of the 4S framework: start, situation, struggles, and solutions. And again, you can download that script and that framework. There'll be a link in the show notes. There are a variety of other ways that you can find storage deals. We will be unpacking that in future talks and future episodes. Just one example, Casey, one of our Storage Wins members, he joined our community, bought his first facility literally 91 days later. Now, that is not typical. I would probably say that's more of an anomaly. Casey was ambitious. He's a go-getter. He's literally the definition of ready, fire, aim. And he found this deal and all three of his deals driving for dollars. He loves to hunt in Oregon, and every time he goes hunting, he hits the road. He and his beautiful wife are out there just as they're driving, looking at storage. And on the way back from a hunting trip, when he was headed home, he came across a facility that appeared to be just like mismanaged, and it didn't look great. He stopped in, nobody was there, but he saw the faded phone number in the sign, called the owner, and was able to buy his first facility. And since he actually bought 3 facilities within 11 months of joining the Storage Wins coaching community, super, super proud of Casey. And there's so many others that have had success. Kate bought a storage facility that was being wholesaled by another member inside of our community. And she was able to partner up with 2 other Storage Wins members that funded the down payment that she needed. So that came from a wholesaler. So relationships and wholesalers is a great way to do it. Mario recently closed on a facility, also purchased via a wholesaler inside of our community, Storage Wins. And so Facebook groups, this is a great place where you guys can build relationships with wholesalers. Make sure that you guys are a part of the Storage Wins Facebook group. And then I'm going to go ahead and let me see if I can expand this a little bit. But if you're watching this is our Storage Wins magic model. So if you see in the triangle there, right in the middle, it says buy your first storage facility. That is what likely you want if you're watching this video, or maybe it's buy my next storage facility. Well, on the outside in red, these are the common objections or fears that get in people's way. It's like, hey, Alex, how do I start? I don't even know where to start or where to begin. Or, hey, Alex, I don't have any money. I can't go buy these assets. Or, hey, I'm just scared. There's a lot of uncertainty. There's fear. I don't want to lose money. I don't want to make a big mistake. Now, on the outside of that is our process and our model. We start with how do we find deals? And if you look in the blue under that, those are the specific pillars or components that make up how we teach you to find deals. And we just touched on a little sliver. We literally have just started scratching the surface. So we go from how do we find deals to how do we fund deals, and then how do we close and operate. So listen, with that being said, you've seen 3 out of the 16 ways that we find these mom and pop off-market storage facilities. By the way, it's not just me. We have several others in our community that have done a lot of these strategies to find these deals. So if you are serious and you are somebody who wants to buy your first or even your next storage facility, I want to encourage you to head over to storagewins.com. You can book a super short 10-minute call and just see if it's a fit to potentially work together. Make sure that you're part of the Storage Wins Facebook group, and then subscribe to the Storage Wins podcast. And that could be either on Apple or on Spotify. Make sure that you are plugged in to the YouTube channel as well. Because every single week we are releasing new content, and I'm on a mission to help as many people as I can, the right people, buy their first storage facility regardless of their situation. I truly believe that anybody can do this, right? If you just have the right mindset, if you're willing to invest in yourself, if you're willing to put in the work, it's a simple business. It doesn't take a lot, but it starts with a decision, a commitment, and then follow through. One of the reasons we call our community Storage Wins is because we set the goal and the intention, right? That's the big storage win. But what we really do is we don't focus on that. We focus on the daily, weekly, monthly micro actions that lead to those small wins. And when stacked up consistently over time, will ultimately lead to your big storage win. So make sure that you're subscribed on the podcast, on the YouTube channel. Stay plugged in. Reach out if I can help you, support you in any way. We've covered 3. We have 13 more ways to go. So make sure you tune into the next episode so that we dive a lot deeper and I continue to help you and serve you from there through this podcast, through the channel, through the Storage Wins Facebook group. And ultimately, if you're serious and you want to generate more cash flow, build wealth, and experience more freedom through literally the best storage community you could possibly join, storagewins.com. And I will connect with you in the next one. God bless. Have a great one. Take massive imperfect action, and let's go make it happen.